The crisp autumn air filled Lucas's garage as the friends gathered around his latest creation. Tools clinked against the workbench, mixing with animated chatter and the occasional burst of laughter. Lucas, his eyes gleaming with excitement behind thick-rimmed glasses, adjusted the wiring with meticulous care. "This is it, guys," Lucas proclaimed, his voice tinged with a mixture of pride and nervousness. "Our ticket to making history at the science fair." Olivia, arms crossed and brow furrowed in thought, inspected the schematics. "It's brilliant, Lucas, but are you sure about this?" she asked, her tone cautious yet curious. Marcus, always the optimist, clapped Lucas on the back. "Hey, if anyone can pull this off, it's you, man," he grinned, his athletic frame towering over the delicate apparatus. Emily, leaning against the garage door frame with arms crossed, raised an eyebrow skeptically. "You do realize we're messing with time here, right? What if something goes wrong?" Lucas chuckled nervously, adjusting a dial. "Come on, where's your sense of adventure? This is our chance to prove that science can defy the impossible." As the hours passed into the night, the makeshift time machine took shape, a complex web of wires, tubes, and blinking lights. The friends worked in harmony, their individual skills weaving together into a tapestry of ingenuity. Each adjustment brought them closer to their goal, oblivious to the ripples they were about to send through time itself. Little did they know, their invention had already caught the attention of forces beyond their understanding. Far in the distant future, a shadowy figure watched with growing concern. The fragile threads of time were about to unravel, and their future selves would stop at nothing to prevent the impending catastrophe. The hum of the time machine filled the garage as Lucas made the final adjustments, his hands trembling with excitement and nerves. The air crackled with anticipation, unaware of the looming presence from another time. Suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the room, causing everyone to shield their eyes. As the light faded, for figures stood before them, older, wearier versions of themselves, clad in clothes that seemed both familiar and foreign. Marcus stumbled back, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What the? How is this possible?" The elder Lucas stepped forward, his voice grave. "You have to listen to us. You can't use the time machine." Olivia stepped closer, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "But why? What's happened?" Future Emily stepped forward, her gaze haunted. "It's dangerous. We thought we were doing good, trying to fix mistakes, but we only made things worse." Lucas, the present one, shook his head in confusion. "What do you mean? We just wanted to prove it works." Future Olivia placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes pleading. "Listen, Lucas. Time is fragile. Every action you take, every change you make, it has consequences. Consequences we didn't understand until it was too late." Silence hung heavy in the air as the implications settled over the group. The once bustling garage now felt suffocatingly still, each friend grappling with the enormity of their creation. Marcus broke the silence, his voice shaky yet determined. "So, what do we do now?" Future Marcus stepped forward, his gaze steady. "You have to destroy it, before it's too late." Lucas looked at the machine, his mind racing with conflicting emotions. It represented hours of hard work, dreams of accolades and recognition. But now, it also symbolized a potential catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Emily, always the voice of reason, spoke up. "They're right, Lucas. We can't risk it." With a heavy heart, Lucas nodded slowly. "Okay, let's dismantle it." As the friends began to dismantle their creation, the air seemed to grow lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Yet, the shadow of what could have been lingered, a reminder of the thin line between curiosity and consequence. Little did they know, their actions had already set in motion a chain of events that would challenge their friendship, their understanding of time, and ultimately, their very existence. The decision to dismantle the time machine weighed heavily on Lucas and his friends in the days that followed. Each of them grappled with the ramifications of what they had seen and heard from their future selves. Despite their initial relief at averting potential disaster, an uneasy tension settled among them. Days turned into weeks, and life seemed to return to normal, or as normal as it could be after encountering versions of themselves from a future that was both familiar and terrifyingly unknown. Lucas found himself unable to shake the image of his older self's haunted expression, the weariness etched in lines that hadn't yet appeared on his own face. He threw himself into his studies and other projects, desperate to distract himself from thoughts of what might have been. Olivia immersed herself in research, trying to understand the principles of time travel and the potential consequences they narrowly avoided. Her once sharp focus now wavered at times, her mind drifting back to the warnings they received. Marcus, usually the life of the party, became quieter than usual. He threw himself into training and sports, channeling his restless energy into physical pursuits that offered a temporary escape from the weight of their shared secret. Emily, ever the skeptic, withdrew into herself. She spent hours poring over historical texts, searching for clues about the nature of time and the mysteries it held. Her interactions with her friends became more guarded, her trust shaken by the events that had unfolded. Despite their efforts to move forward, an undercurrent of tension lingered in their once close-knit group. Conversations grew strained, laughter forced. The memory of their failed experiment loomed over them like a shadow, a constant reminder of the fragile balance they had disrupted. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across Lucas's garage, they found themselves drawn back to the remnants of their creation. The dismantled parts lay scattered across the workbench, a testament to their shattered dreams of scientific glory. Marcus broke the silence first, his voice tinged with bitterness. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't listened to them?" Olivia sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I try not to think about it, but part of me wonders if they were right. Maybe some things aren't meant to be tampered with." Lucas stared at the jumble of wires and circuits, his mind racing with unanswered questions. "But we were so close." Emily's voice was soft but firm. "Maybe there are some mysteries we're not meant to unravel, some lines we shouldn't cross." As they stood in the fading light of the garage, a silent agreement passed between them. They would never speak of their experiment again, burying it alongside their hopes and fears. Little did they know, their journey was far from over. The echoes of their encounter with the future reverberated through time, setting in motion events that would challenge their beliefs, their friendships, and the very fabric of reality itself. Weeks turned into months, and the memory of their abandoned time machine project became a distant ache in the hearts of Lucas and his friends. Life settled into a semblance of normalcy, yet an unspoken tension lingered beneath the surface, a reminder of the paths not taken and the futures left unexplored. Lucas threw himself into his studies with renewed vigor, burying himself in equations and experiments that offered solace in their predictability. Yet, no matter how deep he delved into the realm of science, the specter of what could have been haunted his every calculation. Olivia, ever the strategist, focused her energies on extracurricular projects and leadership roles within the school. Her sharp mind remained a beacon of strength for the group, yet behind her confident facade lay a lingering doubt, a question of whether they had made the right choice. Marcus poured himself into athletics, pushing his body to its limits in pursuit of fleeting moments of adrenaline-fueled escape. The roar of the crowd and the rush of competition offered temporary respite from the weight of their shared secret, yet in quieter moments, doubts gnawed at his resolve. Emily, the skeptic-turned-historian, dove deeper into the annals of time, seeking answers to questions that had no easy explanations. Her once steadfast belief in empirical evidence wavered as she grappled with the intangible mysteries of destiny and choice. Their paths converged one crisp autumn afternoon, as they found themselves drawn to the old science fair bulletin board. Faded posters and yellowed announcements whispered of past triumphs and forgotten dreams, a silent testament to the fleeting nature of ambition. Marcus broke the silence, his voice tinged with a hint of defiance. "Do you ever regret it?" Lucas glanced at his friend, his expression pensive. "Sometimes, but I think we did the right thing. The risks were too great." Olivia nodded, her gaze distant. "We'll never know what could have happened, but maybe that's for the best." Emily remained silent for a moment before speaking softly. I used to think we could control our own destinies. Now I'm not so sure. As they stood amidst the echoes of their past ambitions, a sense of acceptance settled over them. The road not taken stretched out before them, a tantalizing glimpse of what might have been. Yet they knew they could never return to that fork in the road. They had crossed a threshold from which there was no going back. Little did they know, their decision had not gone unnoticed. Forces beyond their understanding watched with keen interest, weaving threads of fate that would draw them into a new chapter of their shared story. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot as Lucas and his friends walked home from school, their conversation light yet tinged with the weight of unresolved questions. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched across the quiet suburban streets of Greenwood Heights. As they rounded the familiar corner leading to Lucas's house, a strange sensation washed over them, a ripple in the fabric of reality itself. The air crackled with static electricity, sending shivers down their spines as they exchanged uneasy glances. "What was that?" Marcus asked, his voice hushed. Olivia frowned, scanning their surroundings with a wary eye. "I'm not sure, but something doesn't feel right." Emily, ever the skeptic, shrugged. "Probably just a power surge or something. It happens." But Lucas knew better. The tingling sensation in the air reminded him of the moments leading up to their ill-fated experiment, the same sense of anticipation and uncertainty that had preceded the arrival of their future selves. That night, as Lucas lay in bed, the familiar hum of the dismantled time machine echoed in his mind. Sleep eluded him, visions of alternate realities dancing behind his closed eyelids. Was it possible that they hadn't escaped the consequences of their experiment after all? The next morning dawned crisp and clear, yet an air of unease hung over Lucas and his friends like a dark cloud. They exchanged nervous glances at school, each silently grappling with their own fears and doubts. During lunch in the cafeteria, a sudden blackout plunged them into darkness. The students erupted into a chorus of startled voices, the usual chaos amplified by a collective sense of unease. When the lights flickered back on minutes later, a hush fell over the cafeteria. But something was different. People looked at each other with confused expressions, as if something had subtly shifted, yet no one could quite pinpoint what. "It's happening again," Olivia murmured, her eyes wide with realization. Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" Emily's gaze flickered to Lucas, her expression troubled. I think time is starting to unravel." Lucas's heart raced as he pieced together the fragments of their shared experiences. The ripple they had felt, the blackout. They were symptoms of a greater upheaval, a rift in time itself that threatened to tear their world apart. As they retreated to the library, seeking solace in the familiar rows of books and quiet solitude, Lucas felt a sense of urgency gnawing at him. They had dismantled the time machine, but had they truly averted disaster? Or had they merely delayed the inevitable? The library provided a sanctuary of sorts for Lucas and his friends as they pored over dusty tomes and ancient texts, seeking clues to unravel the mystery of the time rifts. The weight of their discovery pressed down on them like a heavy cloak, each page turned revealing snippets of arcane knowledge and cryptic warnings. Olivia traced her finger over a faded illustration depicting swirling vortexes of time. "According to this ancient manuscript," she began, her voice hushed with awe, "time is like a delicate tapestry. Once torn, the threads can never be fully repaired." Marcus leaned closer, his brow furrowed in concentration. "But what caused the rifts? And how do we stop them?" Emily, her eyes scanning the pages with laser-like focus, nodded thoughtfully. "It seems our encounter with our future selves may have destabilized the temporal fabric. We triggered a chain reaction that's spreading through time." Lucas paced back and forth, his mind racing with possibilities. "So what do we do? Is there a way to fix it?" The librarian, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a knowing smile, approached them with a weathered tome in hand. "You're on the right track, my dears," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom. "But tread carefully. Time is not to be trifled with." With her guidance, they delved deeper into the mysteries of temporal mechanics, piecing together fragments of knowledge that spanned millennia. They learned of ancient civilizations who had harnessed the power of time, only to vanish into the annals of history when their experiments went awry. Days blurred into nights as they worked tirelessly, fueled by a mixture of fear and determination. The rifts grew more frequent and pronounced, each one heralding a new challenge and pushing them closer to the brink of understanding. One evening, as they gathered in Olivia's basement-turned-war room, a breakthrough came. A theory so radical yet strangely plausible that it left them breathless with hope. "What if—" Marcus began, his voice trembling with excitement. "What if we can stabilize the rifts by recalibrating the temporal frequency matrix?" Olivia's eyes widened, her mind already racing through the implications. "It could work. We just need to figure out the exact resonance frequencies." Emily, ever the skeptic, raised a cautious eyebrow. "But how do we test it? We can't risk another catastrophic event." Lucas, his resolve hardened by their shared journey, nodded slowly. "We'll start small, a controlled experiment. If we can stabilize a minor rift, we might have a chance." With renewed purpose, they set to work, gathering materials and sketching out plans for their makeshift experiment. The air crackled with anticipation as they prepared to confront the consequences of their earlier actions head-on. The basement hummed with anticipation as Lucas and his friends assembled the components for their experimental setup. Tools clinked against metal, wires were carefully connected, and the air buzzed with nervous energy. "This should work," Olivia murmured, double-checking the calculations on her tablet. "We've accounted for the temporal frequencies based on the data we gathered." Marcus adjusted a dial on the makeshift device, his hands steady despite the tension in the room. "Let's hope this stabilizes the rifts. We can't afford any mistakes." Emily glanced at the whiteboard covered in complex equations, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Remember, we need to monitor the energy levels closely. We don't want to inadvertently create more rifts." With a deep breath, Lucas activated the device. A low hum filled the room, accompanied by a faint shimmer in the air as the temporal frequencies aligned with painstaking precision. For a moment, it seemed as though they had succeeded. The rifts stabilized, their edges blurring into the fabric of reality. But then, a sudden surge of energy rippled through the room, causing the lights to flicker and the device to emit sparks. Panic gripped them as the experiment threatened to spiral out of control. "We're losing stability," Olivia shouted over the cacophony of noise. Marcus frantically adjusted the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. "We need to shut it down." Emily rushed to disconnect the power source, her movements swift and decisive. The device powered down with a final sputter, leaving them in tense silence amidst the aftermath of their failed attempt. Lucas slumped against the wall, his heart pounding in his chest. "We were so close." Olivia shook her head, her voice filled with frustration. "We miscalculated something." "But what?" Emily studied the data readouts, her expression troubled. "It's as if the rifts are becoming more unstable. Our actions seem to be exacerbating the problem." As they debated their next steps, a chilling realization dawned on them. Their attempts to stabilize the rifts had inadvertently created a feedback loop, amplifying the very phenomenon they sought to contain. With a sense of grim determination, they regrouped, poring over their notes and brainstorming new approaches. Time was running out, and with each passing moment, the rifts threatened to expand further, potentially unraveling the very fabric of existence. Through sleepless nights and endless debates, they refined their theories and recalibrated their approach. They embraced the harsh lessons of their earlier failures, learning to temper their ambition with caution and humility. And as they stood on the precipice of their next attempt, a silent understanding passed between them. They were not just fighting to save their present. They were forging a path towards a future where the consequences of their actions would shape the destiny of all mankind. The stakes had never been higher as Lucas and his friends prepared for their final attempt to resolve the temporal disruptions that threatened their reality. They had learned from their mistakes, honed their theories, and now stood on the brink of a pivotal moment that would define their future, and perhaps the future of all existence. In the dimly lit basement, the makeshift device hummed softly, its components rearranged and recalibrated with painstaking precision. The air was thick with tension as they made their final adjustments, each movement deliberate and purposeful. "This has to work," Marcus muttered under his breath, his fingers hovering over the controls. Olivia nodded, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "We've accounted for everything this time. We can do this." Emily checked and double-checked the calculations, her expression focused. "The key is to stabilize the rifts without causing further disruptions." With a shared nod, Lucas activated the device once more. This time, there was no surge of energy, no flickering lights, only a soft hum that reverberated through the room like a heartbeat. The rifts began to waver, their edges blurring as if caught in a delicate dance of harmonious frequencies. A collective breath held in suspense as they monitored the readings, their eyes locked on the display screens that flickered with data. Seconds stretched into minutes, each one crucial in determining the success or failure of their endeavor. And then, miraculously, the rifts began to stabilize. The shimmering anomalies that had threatened to tear their world apart gradually faded into nothingness, leaving behind a sense of profound relief and accomplishment. "We did it," Lucas breathed, his voice filled with awe. Marcus grinned, his face breaking into a rare smile. "I knew we could." Olivia exchanged a glance with Emily, their unspoken bond forged through trials and triumphs. "We couldn't have done it without each other." As they basked in the fleeting moment of victory, a sense of gratitude washed over them. For the lessons learned, the bonds strengthened, and the courage found in the face of insurmountable odds. Days turned into weeks, and life in Greenwood Heights resumed its quiet rhythm. The memory of their journey lingered as a shared secret among Lucas and his friends, a testament to their resilience and the indomitable spirit of human curiosity. Yet, amidst the tranquility, a subtle shift had taken root. A newfound respect for the delicate balance of time, and a humbling awareness of the responsibility that came with wielding its power. And so, as they stood on the threshold of a future shaped by their choices, Lucas and his friends knew that they had faced their greatest challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and forever bound by the extraordinary journey that had reshaped their lives. Little did they know, their story would echo through the annals of history, a beacon of hope and perseverance in the face of the unknown, an enduring testament to the power of friendship, courage, and the relentless pursuit of understanding.